Today I'm going to look at the birth chart of Katy Perry. She's a singer. For 2010s, she was actually pretty much at the top as far as pop singer goes. Really popular. 2020s, though, have not quite been as so successful for her. And she's really struggled from a PR standpoint over these last couple years. Kind of almost like she's the the industry's kind of passed her by in a sense. Not that she's not still making music, but the level of success and popularity that she had in the 2010s is definitely not there in the 2020s. And there's almost a sense of she's increasingly been doing things to try to grab that popularity back and getting more and more desperate, it seems, with some of the antics and things she's been up to. Obviously, she went up to space, if you can call it that, earlier this year. Um, and there was a lot of backlash for kind of how she went about it and kind of that whole thing. So I wanted to look at her chart and get a sense for who is she, and why is this happening potentially. So as we can see, she is got a monster Scorpio stellium. All right, she's got most of her planets in Scorpio. She's got Sun conjunct Pluto, which is just kind of throwing a little extra gasoline on this Scorpio fire. The Ascendant conjunct Mercury, and then she's got the Moon conjunct Saturn, and she's also got the South Node. So, if we want to understand Katy Perry, got to understand Scorpio. So what is it? Scorpio is a fixed water sign. It's ruled by Mars. It is about, at its core, intimacy. All right, Scorpio water signs are dealing with the intangible, the emotional, the intuitive qualities of life. So there's this emotionality, this connective part of the sign, and it does it in a fixed, which means it's going to latch onto it, hold on to it. It's going to stay steady with it. And Mars is action. Mars is potent. It wants to pierce. It wants to cut through. And so you get and it's very singularly focused, right? And so you get this very singular set of fixed attention and relating and emotion. And so what that kind of plays out as is there's fixation, right? Strong fixation on things. Scorpios have a tendency to get stuck on something and just really fixate on it. And as they'll have 11th house in Virgo, which means they're going to study it and figure out the best way to get there, and be very strategic about it. But they are going to hold on to it and fixate on it. And even when they run into brick walls where it seems they just can't seem to get past it, they'll just keep trying and trying and trying and trying because there's this almost emotional block that they have because they just can't let go of the emotion, which is very hard for Scorpio. And in Katy's case, she's going to have to learn to let go, right? She's got the South Node in Scorpio, which is about letting go of the fixations, letting go of the strong emotional attachments that she has. And I do bet she's got a lot of them. Now, I said Scorpio is about intimacy. If we think about how somebody would relate in a very intense and singular sense, that's what it would be. And it really describes Scorpio, in my opinion, because if we think about what happens in an intimate setting, right? If you want to be intimate with somebody, what happens? First, obviously, what's your attention on? It's the other person, and that's it. You don't think of anything else, right? Scorpio has Libra in the 12th. Libra is where we tend to see other perspectives, where we tend to resonate with other people. And 12th house is house of hidden things. So Scorpio doesn't get that, doesn't understand other people's opinions, understand other people's points of view. That's a very difficult concept for Scorpio. Right? So there's this idea of I'm only focused on the thing in front of me. Number two, it's a very deep connection. Scorpios are very deep, but again, it's very singularly applied. And then lastly, it's private, right? When you're intimate with somebody, you don't do it in public. You do it, well, I mean, I guess it's 2025, but typically speaking, people want to do it in the privacy of their own home, right? Even if within the home, you're typically going to do it in your bedroom or wherever, in a place that's private, right? Nobody else can watch you. And so Scorpios kind of really also have that sense of privacy, sense of, hey, don't look at me. And this is a complicated thing with Scorpio because there's a sense of growing up. They had an Aquarius fourth house, which means that the family life growing up was very much a bit emotionally detached, but also very much a sense of they were lorded over, right? What's the opposite? Leo. Leo's the king, right? It's the ruler. It's the central figure. And so Leo's the ruler, and as an opposition, Aquarius is the periphery, right? It's the common man, the common person. And so when you have Aquarius fourth house, you have a sense of a family life as well as an internal mindset, an internal sense of I'm just a nobody. I'm just a common person here to be lorded over. And as somebody ages, when they've constantly been in this situation where they were just lorded over and they weren't really important, the natural dynamic is, hey, I want to be somebody important, right? And so that's the Scorpio dynamic here of, on the one hand, they learned, hey, if I don't want to suffer the wrath, right, of the king or the parent, then I'll hide. I'll obscure myself. I'll make sure that the things that I'm into, the things I want to do, how I want to do things are not seen so that I am not criticized, judged, whatever. But at the same time, there's this need, really strong need with Scorpios for people to recognize them. They want to be noticed for what they're capable of. So, if you get somebody like this, like Katy Perry, with a huge amount of Scorpio placements, what are you going to get? You're going to get somebody who has a desperate, desperate need to be seen because they were not seen growing up. Now, what can we say about her parents really quick? Her parents had a tough thing going on, for sure, and it obviously translated to Katy herself. Her dad, right, the father, you see it in the sun, it's conjunct Pluto. So this was a father who was very powerful, possibly spoke with authority, acted with authority, but he was a Scorpio, right? Just, I don't know what his chart is, but as far as what we see in her chart, he's acting like a Scorpio in a sense. He was very controlling. That's another aspect of Scorpio. It's very self-control and just the idea of control, because it has all these feelings, right? But Mars is a more aggressive planet, and so the feelings kind of rage, and it doesn't always know how to outlet them. And so there's a lot of turmoil within a Scorpio, right? And so that needs, and the natural byproduct of that is having a humongous amount of self-control to handle it and to manage it, and the stability that Scorpio is looking for, right? We see it in the 7th house. The stability that it's looking for, it uses its sense of control to try and get there. That kind of ties in with the 10th as well. But yeah, so this was a powerful father figure, someone who was very much in control, probably very secretive, right? Because again, Scorpio is pretty secretive naturally, but then with the Pluto conjunction, it would have been somebody who was very powerful, very secretive, covert in how he operated. And then her mom also would have been on the same page as her dad. They're both Scorpios, but the moon is in fall here, so this was a very emotionally fixed mother, somebody who was had a lot of possibly unstable emotions, very much possibly very controlling, but at the same time, it's moon conjunct Saturn, so this was a mother who was really restrained in her motherly duties, in her motherly expressions, right? And the bit that I looked into, researched this before I did the video, she grew up in a very religious home, right? They were, I want to say missionaries, but they did go around planting churches throughout the country. And so there was a lot of travel growing up, as well as a very, very strict religious atmosphere. And that, I think, makes total sense. You had the father who was the head of the household. It was probably a very conservative household, right? Traditional, where he's the master, he's the ruler, he's the king, and the mother was there to be subservient and follow along. They were both probably very religious. Now, one other aspect to Scorpio is it tends to be very defiant, wants to do its own thing, and that, again, it goes back to this axis. It was lorded over in youth and wants to do its own thing, right? Wanted to be recognized for its own achievements when it's older, and so there's a natural tendency to want to do it my own way. Let me do it my own way. And with Saturn here in Scorpio, you get somebody, at least for Katy, right? She had an emotionally oppressive atmosphere growing up. And so not only is she somebody who's emotionally got a lot of volatility, a lot of instability because it's Moon in Scorpio, but she represses it, she holds it down. It was tough love growing up, so there's a seriousness to her. Oftentimes there can be a feeling of I'm not allowed to show my emotions, right? But then in addition, Saturn in Scorpio is going to tend to really, really embrace that defiant attitude. I'm not going to do it the way I was raised. I'm not going to listen to you, right? And so what do we see? Katy went a total 180 from her parents in terms of, how she's gone about her life. Her parents were very conservative, religious. I want to say it was Pentecostal, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But she said no, right? She was a gospel singer originally and realized that's not going to get her anywhere in terms of career, and she swapped into pop culture. And honestly, she's pretty sexual. A lot of her stuff early on, always kind of really playing with that border between, kind of a little more too much and just enough to really kind of stand out. All right. And so that was her thing. That's a total break from how she was raised. And so you get this defiance with Scorpio. I'm going to do it my own way. I'm going to do something else. And one other thing, too, with Scorpio, and just in regards to sexuality, there is a tendency with Scorpios because it's ruled by Mars. Mars is, right, part of Mars' rulership is sexual energy, particularly the masculine sexual energy, right? Lust, desire. And so there's almost a sense of, with Scorpio, at times, they can become very sexual in an effort to try to attract the thing they really want, which is stability. They want to be in relationships. But sometimes Scorpios can really delude themselves into thinking the sexual aspect of it, because it's something that tends to be very big for them, is the intimacy that they actually desire. But sex isn't the only part of intimacy. So it is. Now, I don't know anything about her personal dating relationships or anything, but it is a struggle for Scorpios when they're younger, typically, where there can be a temptation to replace true intimacy with just pure sex. So, but it does tend to express itself very sexually, right? Provocatively, and that has to, again, to do with the Mars rulership, which in her case, she has an excellent Mars. Mars in Capricorn. It's co-present with Jupiter. It's sextile her Moon, her Saturn, her Mercury, her ascendant. So it's very, very excellent Mars in the third house of communication, siblings. It's our day-to-day, our practical skills, our lower education. So with Mars in the third, there's often going to be an aggressive or combative communication style. It doesn't always come through. With Capricorn, it's going to be a bit more pragmatic in the way she tries to approach things, what she tries to say. Scorpios aren't always the most forthcoming. They tend to have a good poker face. And so there's a definitely for her, she's not going to be outright hostile. And with Jupiter here, there may be a lot of softness as to the way she goes things, philosophical. But it can come out as at times she can really, there can be some harshness to the way she communicates and describes things. Now, in terms of her singing style, because the third house, I think, is going to really emphasize that in terms of what she sings about, how she sings. What do we see? There's Mars and Jupiter here, right? Sexuality for sure. A very strong, potent, exalted Mars, right? And she's Scorpio, all this Scorpio stuff. Of course, she's going to sing about sexual things, right? That just makes complete sense. And then Jupiter here too. I wouldn't be surprised if she hasn't already begun to shift into more philosophical stuff, right? Beginning of her career, what was she? She was what do you call it? I don't know why I'm having a brain fart here, but like singing in church kind of a thing. That was kind of the genesis of her singing career, right? A gospel singer. There we go. Sorry. But she was a gospel singer, right? It was religious in nature, and then she shifted to the more sexual in nature, more provocative, right? And another thing too is Capricorn tends to not have a problem with stuff that's taboo, more out there, and we see this in her singing style. And honestly, in her productive qualities, she tends to have pretty outrageous shows. Not in a bad way, but in a very, out there, let's make it extravagant kind of this bombastic thing with a lot of, just kind of, oh, okay, that's interesting, bizarre, entertaining kind of way. And that's this Capricorn third house. Again, mixed with what? The Scorpio wants to be seen. It wants to be noticed, right? I actually think for her, she's not driven by the success so much as I think she's driven by the desire to be seen, to be noticed, to be recognized. Now she has the North Node in the seventh house. Seventh house is in Taurus, and so for her, there's two things going on here. One, obviously, there's this learning to let go of these emotional attachments that she has, emotional attachments that can hold her back, right? Because, like I said, Scorpio wants to hold on to emotions, and so if there's something that happens that really gets under their skin, they're going to hold on to it. It's going to become a grudge. It's going to become a chip on the shoulder. It's going to become, something in the psyche that really just constantly sticks there, and it's very uncomfortable and challenging. And so, first part of her journey is going to be learning to let go of some of that stuff. But then the other side of it is going to be learning to embrace stability, right? Embrace stability. Let go of the turmoil, right? Because Scorpios will constantly allow themselves to be embroiled in turmoil internally. Let go of it. Move towards something that's more peaceful, more physical. But the other part of it is it's in the first house and seventh house. And so for her, there's a sense of learning to let go of her own importance, her own image, right? Learning to let go of that stuff and move towards, learning to relate to other people, learning to rely on other people. I don't need to be so self-reliant, which is going to be a hard thing for her because Scorpios are so independent, right? They want to do it themselves. They're tired of other people telling them how to do things. So let me do it, let me do it, let me do it, let me be seen. Look what I can do. And so for her, this is going to be such a tough life lesson of, no, let's get over here. Let's learn how to relate, learn to rely on other people, learn to exist with other people, and to not be the only cause of our success. Right? We'll notice that Taurus and Libra both ruled by Venus, right? But what does that mean? It means the 12th house is also connected to the 7th because of the rulership. And was the 12th house is house of undoings. And so for Scorpios, relationships can be a huge roadblock for them, a huge source of pain and loss, and in general just undoing in the life. And so for her, she has to be careful with the relationships she's in, right? I don't know to the extent that this is accurate, but something I was reading was, I guess, the management or producers she used early in her career that led to a lot of her success, she had kind of dropped for, I don't forget the reason, but it has since kind of picked back up. And maybe that's her understanding, kind of going through a phase where she realized, hey, I can't do this myself. I need to let go, right? I need the help. I need the other partner, the person here. Um, and so that's kind of the general thing for her. There's a lot of really strong dynamic of wanting to do it herself, but more than that, wanting to be noticed and recognized. This pull is so strong, and to be recognized for what she does and what she's capable of. Um, and as I said, because this Mars is active, right? It's very strong. It's going to want to work. And in Capricorn, there's a sense of I'm just going to work and work and work until I plow through the obstacle. So she is undoubtedly an extremely hardworking person. But for her, there's a almost a sense of in trying to chase this, this recognition. What is she going to do? She's going to work through it and try all things, and she's not going to care if she looks the fool while doing it, right? Because Capricorn doesn't care how people perceive it. It's the eighth house for Capricorn's ruled by Leo. It kind of revels in kind of taboo things, right? It doesn't mind looking the fool. It's okay with that kind of humiliation in a sense. It kind of enjoys it in a way. And so for her, there's going to be a complete desired need, compulsive need almost, to chase after this recognition in any way, even if she looks like an idiot while doing it. Now, she may not, you know, she might not conceptualize that she's looking like an idiot, but the ability to do that without care is there. And so for her, like I said, this is tough. It's a tough journey for her, and I do wish her well. I wish her success. I don't know what her marital status is, or if she's dating anyone or anything, but I do really hope that she's able to find the people in her life who can be this rock and this foundation for her to really help her move past and learn to let go of this extremely deep desire to do things herself and to be recognized for the self, right? Because I think when she can move past that, that's what's really going to allow this to flourish.